Bouncy ball chair. All right. This is going to be a quick drop. I know I haven't done anything on my own channel in about 6 months or so, but I've been usually a guest on the Late Night Parent podcast, which I'm very proud to have been a part of, and still proud to have been a part of. Uh, let's do a little talking about reparations because this is sort of got me all spun. So there's talk about not serious talk, mind you, but talk about reparations in the Democratic Party. What this is, in my opinion, is for is to get the blacks agitated about it, right? Yeah, we're psyched. Ooh, we've got something to look forward to. Let's all rush the polls and vote for this or that person who uh, is standing for reparations, right? I mean, something like 96% of black people are for reparations, and something like 20% of the rest of Americans, white, Asian, Latino, Indian, Hungarian, whatever your stripe is, none of those people believe that we should get reparations. Well, not none. I just said 20%. So a little under a quarter of the people believe that we should get reparations, right? I want you to think about that because we built this place, and it's not cliche to say it. Blood and bone is in the mortar. It's in the eaves of over the windows, hanging from the roof. So even as we say that with my big flag behind me, a lot of us, we do right by our nation, and our nation regularly and routinely disrespects us. Our nation regularly and routinely lets foreigners come here and feed on us. So this is what it's got me. I don't see how you can put reparations seriously on the docket. I don't. I think there's a lot of people in America who have no want of being connected to this place. They're just here for the money. There's a lot of people who are making money here and sending it out of the country, right? So once you start seriously making sure that people can't feed on people, uh, those people have political power, and they've had political power for a while. I don't know any group who does not feed on us. I'm originally a city boy, uh, so I I don't think that Northerners are any different. Like I said, I'm from New York. I'm supposed to be a liberal bastion, and those are only people I've ever known to be dark with me. Right now, I live in the South, and it's a very different energy, and that's. But I'm sure if I asked anybody around here what do they think about reparations, they think that it's it's problematic. I don't know why. Everyone always has the same argument about why it's problematic, right? You can't. This is my opinion now. You can't give everybody a check, right? You can't send them a check for two reasons. One, most of them will give it right back. The latest this, newest that, they'll start raising prices in the black communities to get it all back. So that's ridiculous. But this is always the rap that conservatives say. Oh, you can't give everybody a check. And then the second one is, how can you prove that they were here? There are no paperwork, right? Nobody kept paperwork on slaves. Um, that's sort of not true. They may not have told you who was related to who, but just like the Nazis, they signed the stuff and kept the property. So they knew what they owned, even though they may not have told you who or where they came from. So no reparations for black people is what the talk is. But side note, when the Nazis ran through Germany and stole all that stuff from all those Jewish people, we've been making it a point to make those people whole, whether we find these guys who did it or find the stuff that was stolen from them. So, yeah, the reparation thing is based in hate. It is. It's based in a hatred of us. Um, or in ignorance of the fact. It's one of the two, right? Sometimes you can get to the sea and stare at the same view and get there in two different ways, right? So now they're talking about reparations, and what are they saying? They're saying that they want to look at this seriously. Now, who's saying this? Everybody. I should have combed my hair. Everybody who's running for president. Well, not everybody, but like five people who are running for president: Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, um, Elizabeth Warren. And Elizabeth Warren, her whole this is nobody knows what this is, right? Because Elizabeth Warren's whole thing about reparations, she just wants to throw the Indians in with the blacks, and this tells me that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Reparations is about bad practices done to a group of people by the state, right? But in what we're talking about here, um, trying to make people whole. So it's about black people. Once you throw Indians in, it's a totally different argument. The idea that all those, and I hate the word colored people because I remember, I'm sorry, people of color, because I remember colored people. It's a pejorative. Now all of a sudden, clever wordplay people have all these people calling themselves people of color. And every time I hear it, I just think of how stupid you are to allow anybody to call you that. So, yeah, the colored people or the people of color can all just be lumped into the same box because they're the same non-white uselessness, apparently is what it feels like. The American Indian deserves their day. Some would say they had their day. Some say they had their day twice. Whether you took bees for an island, which is ridiculous, or whether you agreed to these treaties that keep getting crashed, or if you agree to these casinos that you can run in places where is no gambling, right? That's sort of an acknowledgement of, you know, we did wrong by these people and they had this set up, and now that we're a lot less racist than our forebears, you can have casinos. But here's the thing: there's a lot of poor Indians. They all don't have casinos, right? So I don't know. At this point, the Indian issue is not the black issue. You can't throw them both into the same pile, Elizabeth Warren. Um, so it's about the history and the bad practices. It's about slavery. It's about Jim Crow. It's about the redlining, where you couldn't live where you wanted to live, right? It's about people's blood and sweat and tears being stolen away. You bust your hump to get a little bit of land to have a, a farm, and through dirty trickery and evilness, they talk amongst themselves to make sure nobody will now sell you anything, no one will buy from you. So now all of a sudden your farm is gone and they can pick it up for pennies on the dollar. That is typical of what we're talking about. Um, it's sort of throw the Indians in or anybody else you just have to have that you just want to deal with is is ridiculous. This is the only time I'm glad that there is no black leaders, and there aren't any. There are no, because if they were, they'd tell you something other than marching in a circle. There are no black leaders. Everyone you know who's black and famous aren't leading you anywhere. They're just black and famous, black and rich. They may have an opinion on this or that, but they risk nothing for you. The last time anybody risked anything for us black people, I think, uh, was likely Kaepernick. And I think Kaepernick stumbled into it backwards. But then he's not doing that anymore, is he? Like I said the last time on the Late Night Parent podcast, he wasn't cut out for this. So he wanted to be an athlete, and then he stumbled into this, and then he can't be an athlete, but he does have the moral high ground. But in my mind, in his days when he's by himself, whether it's shaving or taking a shower, and his mind is rolling around and he's thinking about where he is in his life. He's thinking, I should be playing football, and these people suck, and why am I not playing football? So, I mean, his football days are over, but they gave him a grip of money. So I think that will be the last you hear of Colin Kaepernick and the plight of us black folk, right? And I appreciate what he did, but he didn't sign up to be, you know, leading anybody. Um, and he gets a lot of hatred too. But that's not reparations. That's just the continuing perpetually bad practices of the place. Uh, yeah, man. I don't know. Like I said, foreigners show up in your neighborhood and sell trash to get themselves up and running, and then when they're up and running, they move out and they tell everybody that you're niggers and worthless. They insult your women, and you want to crush their skulls, but this corrupt justice system just waits for you to cross against the light so it can give you 30 years. That's a little overly dramatic. But it's stuff that would not get anyone else into trouble will get you 5 years in jail. So what are you going to do? I've always been about judicial reform, not reparations, because I don't think you can pull it off correctly. Here's my thing about reparations. You need 13 universities, 13 because 13 is a sacred number in our American system. 13 free universities for black people. You can go there and get a degree in any one of like 7 disciplines. Nobody's going to teach you how to be an artist because that's ridiculous if we're talking about reparations and getting off the bottom, right? So if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer or a scientist of any sort, yeah. Um, think of it as military academies just for private citizens. And after a certain amount of time, I think 30 years, because if you haven't done it in 30 years, if your parents haven't told you they have this thing and it's been going on for 12 years and you pass on it, that's on you, right? So you're supposed to be instilling stuff down the line in your family tree, and people don't. It's all about the latest sneakers and the latest that, and it's just out and out ridiculous. And you can tell this by the music that's popular. All the music that's popular is how much weed I smoke, how many bitches I get, and I'll shoot all y'all. And it's always at the top of the chart. But all the good, deep stuff that makes you think about, I love rap music, makes you think about prose and similes and metaphors, you know, those are hard to find. And it's not just in rap music. If you listen to a lot of this pop music by some of these singers, it's all I'm great, to hell with you. What kind of love song is that? You know? Like what I always pick, I'm off on a tangent from my reparations, but this idea that if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it as a romantic lyric is ridiculous. There's got to be another genre for songs like that. Call it I hate you songs or go fuck yourself songs or anything, but they're not songs that bring out those quintessential feelings of love or appreciation. And they're not even those sad breakup songs that leaves you with a sad message. It's just an arrogant song. It sounds like you're lucky to be rid of that person, right? And this is where we are. People have redefined all this. I was talking to my nephew yesterday about snitching. And what is snitching? His position is snitching is telling on anybody. And I was like, that's not right. You can only snitch if you were part of the crime. If I'm a bank robber and you and I rob a bank and you get away with $100 million and I'm about our business, I don't snitch though. I'm going to do 40 years in jail, right? Because we did this stupid thing together. Now, if I saw the both of you robbing the place and I'm a shoe shop owner or a bodega guy or a farmer out in the middle of nowhere, when I see you and I call the cops on you, that's not snitching. That's being a good citizen. Even if you think he should have minded his business and no one got hurt and it's not, and his whole thing was how big the crime was. So yeah, if he's shooting up the neighborhood, you can call the cops on him. But if someone sees you take, candy in a bodega and they telling you he's a snitch. No, he's not. He's just like, it's sad to say, but it's a good citizen over trivial nonsense like a candy bar in a Delhi, maybe. But at the end of the day, he did not help you commit any of these crimes. He is not snitching on you. Snitching have a vested interest in what they're doing. So the hip hop community has made snitching. Oops. The hip hop community has made snitching about innocent people who had nothing to do with the chicanery part of it. So now I, who have nothing to do with your crime, am not are not supposed to say anything to law enforcement. That's ridiculous. Now, you don't want to say anything to law enforcement because they're a bigger problem than the people who did the thing. That is a totally different thing. I'm not going to call the cops because the cops come here, they beat up everybody and disrespect everybody, and they're assholes. Fine. That's a totally different argument for not calling the cops. But don't tell me I'm not calling the cops because I'm not a snitch. Did you help them do any of what I said? Rob that bank, kidnap that person, shoplift a lollipop. Were you part of that? No, then you cannot be a snitch. This is the problem, right? Leaderless people. Everybody's got a stupid opinion. My opinion is stupid, but at least I think I'm facing true north. Now, I think a lot of people are facing the back wall of their closet. They're so lost. Uh, Reparations. Should we get it? I think only in the way that I said so. I think universities, and you are not going to get 13 universities. And after 30 years of this university, you should open it up to tuition, and they should be run at such a level like military academies. We, the American people, are essentially run by foreigners and money. And when it all goes bad, they're going to want you to fight a war. I'm too old to go. I didn't go the last time when I had the opportunity. And I think you're going to have to do a lot of not even soul searching. You're just going to have to go because now there's a draft for everybody. So you ladies who don't want to get your, war on are going to have to reassess that because this is the price of equality. Yeah, you too can die on the front line. Um, I just think the whole thing is I think the whole thing is problematic on so many reasons, and we need real answers, and no one has them. Yeah. I mean, we give out a lot of foreign aid to foreign countries, and we give nothing to us. And we keep doing what good Americans do. I know some people are hot, you know, hot, I don't want to say racist, but will tell you why we are not what we are. And we're a set upon people in this nation. You know, they claim we commit other crimes, and that's ridiculous. They throw us all in. When I say they, I'm talking about the racist clans people in the government. They need pensions too, and since they're not targeting, you know, I guess white people like they target us. I mean, white kids don't get shot unarmed and all this stuff. Even though you hear somebody have one outlier. What about Chuck? He was shot. And you're like, yeah, you know. The whole point is no one should be shot. The whole point is the system should work for everybody. And it doesn't. And I think the people at the top do all the stealing, and then so they're not overthrown. They let some poor people feel empowered by doing this stuff, by like having their back, telling them, you know, you can't have Medicare for all because the blacks are. What are we blacks doing with the Medicare money? I don't know. We're doing something with it. That's why you don't have it. It's it's always kicking the ball down the road or blaming somebody who should not be blamed. And this is where we are with reparations, right? You need to fix it. And I think a sign of fixing reparations it's not just going to be some stage statement, right? Because we get a lot of that. We get a lot of we get a lot of lip service about feeling our pain when someone died because you can't show up and be like that the nigga deserved it and stay in Congress these days. I'm sure a lot of them will say that to their friends, but everybody's trying to keep this veneer of respectability up as they do some of the most evil crap you can possibly imagine, right? So reparations comes around now. Why? Because Hillary Clinton got her clocked straight cleaned the last election, and black people did not come out for her. So now they're gonna toss you some bones so you black people can be interested in the election because, you know, you're not gonna be interested in Bernie Sanders, not really. Those are outliers, and you're not going to be interested in Biden. Biden's numbers are already dropping because he represents yesterday, and nobody wants yesterday. We've been there, right? So I think part of their tactic is to raise this because they only ever raise it now. They won't raise it in the general election. Never has it ever been raised in the general election, and they're not going to raise it in the primaries. You know, because they'll lose in the general if they raise it in the primaries. So they say it now to get you jazzed, and when the primaries come around, you can vote Democrat heavy and feel good, and then they can stop talking about reparations and go on to how crazy Kanye is or some other wildness. Uh, I mean, you can even see it in the media. The media is just sketchy as all fizzuck. So you have this Jesse Smollett guy who claimed to be beaten up by two weightlifting brothers. He was on Empire, a show that I have never watched, and I'm glad to say that I will never watch because it's part of the problem. So he gets he gets arrested for false police report in this thing, and he's all over everything. The media can't stop talking about him. Meanwhile, there's a Coast Guard guy who wanted to kill everybody, but he is not the story that they're talking about. It's obviously a more important story. It's obviously has bigger implications than Jesse Smollett or whatever his name is, Jesse or whatever his name is. But you get more heat in America stirring the racial pot, and the racial pot is stirred a lot, and it's always stirred by media people. And then they always have these black folk that are happy to make $1 million with them and sell you their $1 trillion bad idea. So reparations, nuts to that. They're not serious, and it really did piss me off, and it got me off of my I can't say it's lazy. I've just kind of I don't know what to do with this channel. I mean, I want to do something good for the for people who watch it. I want it to mean something. I mean, I love playing video games. I have a video game channel. Uh, I was fairly fit up until like 5 6 months ago. Now I'm a tubby bastard, but I could do a light, average, everyday working man fitness channel. No super athlete stuff. I draw and I paint. I could do a comic book or paint a portrait a week. I think this is more important. I think black people really need to get their crap together because, like I said, black people are running on autopilot. I met a lot of black people who do nothing but cause problems for black people. Ugh. So, yeah, those people won't even go to a rally for an unarmed shooting victim, right? But I'm also the guy who'll go to a rally for a cop. I've been to just as many cop rallies and funerals as I have for these kids. Because I don't see everything in black and white. And I see black and white in maybe 5 or 6 shades of gray. I think everyone else has a giant shade of gray kind of swatches. And so whatever you say or do is never wrong. You know what I mean? Because there's always a shade of gray where someone will go, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And at this point, it's black and white. You know, it's like dating a 9-year-old. It's wrong. There's no shades of gray in it. It's wrong. Why are we sitting here having this conversation? It's wrong. But by the time you deal with these people, you know, oh no, you don't understand. Oh yeah, she was young-ish, and you're like, no, now you're just doing triple talk and double talk. You're a king of rhetoric. You know, it's just it just it's just dark. It's dark. I don't see how it stays because every year it gets harder to pull this con. I think uh, I think we're in a pickle because I think a lot of people in my community run on bad practices taught to them by people. They're hateful of their own, right? And I'm not even talking about people outside the house. Some people don't like themselves in their own. And then they go out into the world and then they collide with you. Other people love themselves so much that everything about everybody else, you know, is you could have worked harder, you were lazy, oh, look at us, we're the better people, and we're over here with the better people. So no one comes back, you know. So listen to this, all you millionaires. I've told somebody this 1,000 times. Not told my sister this, and I told other people this 1,000 times. If all of these millionaires, football players, basketball players, singers, baseball players, actors, smart businessmen went back to the junior high school that they came from, not gave anybody a fucking nickel, just told them that they could do it. Seeing that guy will motivate you. And not once a year. I mean, Jesus. I mean, seriously. You know, get there 6 times a year, every 2 months, every 60 days, you know, and walk around. Know some of the kids. Don't pay for anybody's college. Don't pay for anybody's to. Don't help anybody with a bank loan or a sick mama or any of that stuff. Keep it professional. Don't have them at your house. Don't date them or marry them. You know, none of that. Just tell them it can be done, and they will sit around together and begin to cook, and they'll make it happen. They will make it possible. They really will. That is the power of look. I'm gonna wrap this up. Part. How can I say this? Part of what is great about America is you can sell hope to people. Here's the thing about hope. Hope, and a Metro card will get you on the subway in New York. You know what I'm saying? Hope is a currency that's I don't think you can spend it. I think hope is something that vests in you and yourself, and you can then do something with the hope that you get. But it's not just hope. It has to be avenues of how to get there. You know what I'm saying? So I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be a lawyer. I want you to be a dentist or whatever the case may be. It's good. Telling that kid from the time he was 4 until the time he was 14 that he can do that is great. But there has to be avenues, right? How do I get there? Oh, you get good grades, and do how do I get good? Oh, well, then you study hard. That's the roadmap. Oh, I want to go to college. Oh, if you want to do that, then you should really go to this college. They're better at that versus, you know, True's College of Brain Surgery and Knitting. So you don't want to go to my college of brain surgery and knitting. You want to go to Johns Hopkins, right? Which is one of the great schools, universities, dare I say the world. Um, you know, but how do you get there? And once you know how to get there, how do you start planning for money? Because everything is about making sure you don't get there. So if all those guys, the hundreds of thousands of rich black people that, are out here in the world, would just go back to their junior high school, you know, and go, hey, I just want to look at, and yeah, okay, maybe throw them a year-ending barbecue. That I mean, instead of showing up around Thanksgiving, giving out turkeys, show up at barbecue and say, "I'll see you next year. Don't drop out of school. I got you." So by the time they go through junior high school, and they're like, "Oh, uh, I, I think by the time they got out of junior high school and went to went to high school, and generally high school is where everything begins to come off the rails, right? Hormones and uh, aggression from other students, teachers who phone it in. this is my idea. By the time those kids that you've cooked in this environment get to high school, um, they'll have other people who went to their school who know what they're about, and they can sort of get together and try and be better students then. Or or excuse me, maybe you go back to that high school too and get all the kids from a greater district. But again, don't buy them. Don't give them money. You know, I mean, the chaff will fall away. Some kids don't want to do it. But if you start showing up with Maybach Benzes and giant fucking gold chains, then they just want to be around you because you have stuff. And some of these girls, I know America don't like to believe that women are evil, will try and slide into your lap to be anywhere near a check, right? And if that famous dude falls for that, his sorry butt deserves to sit in a box forever. Or that famous woman, right? So our problems are only going to be solved by us. It's not going to be this reparation stuff. It's not going to be, we can fix it, just throw them in with the Indians and come up with something. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be, what did Cory Booker say? Cory Booker wanted baby, kind of like, once you have a baby, you get an account. That's not reparations. Everybody has babies. So what, you're going to give it to the black babies and not the white babies? That's just a recipe for a lawsuit. It has to be race-based, based on the history of this place. And there's a lot of people who just want to keep you in court, you know, so nothing happens. And that's, we have enemies and they're in government, and we are not going to get reparations, and the killing and disrespect won't stop, and we are essentially, I can't even say we're on our own because we don't look out for each other, right? So you're on your own until the election, when they'll tell you that they will solve all your problems, and then you will vote for them, and the next time you see them will be them telling you that you're fired. All right, well, we're Lahayim people.